Surveying a listed building is a specialised task and one which should not be undertaken lightly. It requires careful attention to historical significance, structural integrity and compliance with legal protections. Listed buildings are recognised for their architectural and cultural importance, meaning alterations and maintenance to them must normally be carried out with sympathetic materials and skills. Most listed buildings are old and have been constructed with different techniques. I'm Paul Badham, Associate Director at Harrison Clarke, and in this video we'll be covering key aspects such as preparation, methodology, challenges and regulatory considerations for the surveyor. A listed building is one that has been officially recognised for its special architectural or historical interest. In the UK, these buildings are categorised into three different grades. Grade 1, these are buildings of exceptional national importance. Grade 2 star, these are particularly important buildings with some special additional interest. Grade 2, these are buildings of significant historical value, but of a broader classification. Surveyors must be familiar with the specific protections applicable to different grades, as any work undertaken to them must align with preservation guidelines and those set by Historic England or equivalent bodies. Before even conducting an on-site survey on a listed building, the process starts in the warmth and dryness of the office. This might involve reviewing documentation, such as the official listing, title plans, conservation area details, and historical records or images. We also might be reviewing any past modifications, planning applications, and assessing any existing planning constraints. We also will be identifying any restrictions imposed by planning authorities, including listed building consents. Because the buildings are of various ages, we'll be considering known structural issues and common problems associated with historic buildings or local building techniques such as wall or roof construction. We'll also be considering if specialist involvement is required for unusual or specialist tasks or tests. This might include drone or access equipment to fully see construction details. We'll also be considering how much time we need to allocate. Often older buildings need more time to inspect. Once we've established all that we can, it's time for the survey. This will normally follow a similar process for all buildings, including checking the walls, roofing, floors, foundations for signs of deterioration or adverse movement. We'll also be identifying weaknesses due to the age, weathering, or perhaps some unsympathetic alterations. We'll try to determine the composition of the original building materials, such as stone, timber, or traditional plaster. We'll also be assessing whether historic materials are intact or have been replaced with modern alternatives. As part of our survey, we'll also be recommending appropriate conservation methods to preserve the building if they are necessary. We'll normally be testing for damp, rot and insect infestations, checking insulation levels, although many modern insulation techniques might not be suitable for historic structures. Most buildings will have been constructed before the introduction of the modern building regulations. However, we still do need to consider how this might affect the user's occupation, particularly in terms of health and safety, fire hazards, and also accessible. Most buildings will have been constructed before the introduction of the modern building regulations. However, we will still need to consider how this might affect the user's occupation, particularly in terms of safety, fire hazards, and access. We'll provide guidance on areas where modifications may be feasible. We'll also be advising on sustainable interventions such as energy-efficient restoration techniques. Surveying a listed building comes with a unique set of challenges. There may be limited access for invasive inspection. Unlike modern structures, destructive testing or alterations are restricted. Also, historic repairs may obscure issues, and previous repairs may not adhere to conservation principles. The surveyor needs to have a vast knowledge of issues affecting buildings and recommending techniques for remedial works, which can be expensive. The surveyor also needs to draw on all of their skills to consider what alterations have been made through the years and how this has affected the building or might do so in future. After conducting the survey, the findings are compiled into a structured report outlining urgent and long-term concerns, recommendations for conservation or repair, ensuring historical integrity is maintained, legal compliance considerations including listed building consent requirements, or specialist recommendations such as the need for specialist tests or involving heritage consultants. Surveying a listed building requires careful planning, expert knowledge and adherence to stringent legal protections. The role of the surveyor goes beyond a structural assessment and involves safeguarding history while balancing modern needs. Successful surveys lead to sustainable conservation, ensuring that historic properties remain preserved for future generations. If you're considering purchasing a listed building, Harrison Clarke have a team of skilled building surveyors who can help. We can be reached on 02381 550 051 or at harrisonclarke.co.uk.